If you believe the mind can silence the heart, hit subscribe, because this story will prove you wrong. They called me a genius, the woman who tamed instincts, the omega who erased her scent. I spent 5 years perfecting a synthetic suppressant, one drop to cloak what I was. One vial to make me invisible in a world ruled by alphas, and it worked. Every test, every field trial, every council inspection, I passed like a ghost. Until him. Until the day the Eastern Alpha walked into my lab, his scent like wildfire and stormlight, and my formula failed. One breath of him and the air changed, molecules bending toward his gravity, my pulse sinking to his. If I'd known that moment would unravel everything, my research, my control, my life, I would have locked the doors and never looked back. But I didn't. And now my secret isn't just mine. It's the weapon that could end a war. If you've ever tried to hide what you are, only to have fate find you, stay with me, because this is how my lies began to smell like truth. Prologue. The scientist who forgot to breathe. My name is Dr. Lyra Vance. I'm 27, a geneticist specializing in lupine inheritance. In plain language, I study the biology of shifters, our bloodlines, our instincts, the chemical poetry that defines who hunts, who serves, and who submits. It's ironic, isn't it, that the only omega in the department is the one dissecting the hierarchy that shackles her kind. But science was my sanctuary long before it became my rebellion. I grew up in the borderlands between packs, a no-territory zone where outcasts tried to pretend they were human. My mother was one of them. She hid her scent beneath burnt sage and perfume, but nothing hides the truth forever. When I was 16, my first heat came early. I remember the way my body betrayed me, skin fevered, scent spilling into the air like honey and blood. Within an hour, alphas from 3 towns away were clawing at our door. My mother locked me in the cellar, whispering through the cracks, "Don't make a sound, Lyra." They can smell fear. For 3 days, I sat in the dark while howls echoed through the night. When it was over, the world felt smaller and I felt contaminated. That was the night I swore I'd never let my biology decide my destiny. So I buried my nature under formulas and microscopes. Degrees, research grants, sleepless years under fluorescent light, all leading to a single creation, Sentinel 9. A synthetic suppressant capable of neutralizing omega pheromones at the cellular level. It didn't just mask scent, it silenced the body's response. No heat, no lure, no weakness. With it, I could walk through any pack's territory unnoticed. Alphas ignored me. Betas respected me. I was finally neutral, invisible, safe. But safety is a fragile illusion, especially when you start playing God. The first hint of danger came as a whisper during a conference in the northern sector. Rumors of the Eastern Alpha's expansion, of border raids, of soldiers going feral under the full moon. Lucien Vale, that was his name. A strategist, a killer, a ghost story told to make young alphas behave. He'd united half the continent through war and charisma, and now he wanted science on his side. My research reached his desk before I did. He requested a demonstration, formally through the council. Politely, as if the word request still meant anything when it came from an alpha like him. The council forced me to comply. They called it collaboration. I called it exposure. I remember preparing the lab that morning, the hum of centrifuges, the cold bite of disinfectant in the air, every vial of Sentinel lined up like soldiers ready for inspection. My heart beat steady, controlled. I'd taken my dose 2 hours earlier, triple-checked the readings, sealed myself inside a cocoon of rationality. Science had always been stronger than instinct, until instinct decided to fight back. When the doors opened and the delegation entered, I expected bureaucrats in suits, maybe a few armed guards. Instead, the first thing that hit me was his scent, not sharp or sweet, something elemental, smoke after lightning, cedar and storm. It wrapped around my lungs, and for the first time in years, my body responded. My pulse spiked. My inhibitor levels dropped by 30% before he even spoke. He was tall, broad-shouldered, too composed for someone who commanded armies. Every movement calculated, every breath deliberate. He extended his hand. "Dr. Vance," he said, his voice low enough to make the air vibrate. "Your work precedes you." His fingers were warm when they closed around mine, but the warmth felt dangerous, like touching sunlight after years underground. I forced a professional smile. Alpha Veil. I hope the journey wasn't difficult. Not at all. His eyes, pale gray, edged with silver, studied me the way a hunter studies terrain. "Your formula interests me. A compound that can silence what we are. That's either genius or blasphemy." "It's protection," I said carefully. "For omegas who wish to work without interference." He tilted his head. "Or to hide them." Something in his tone made my stomach twist. It wasn't accusation. It was recognition. I'd spent years around alphas who looked through me, but this one looked at me, as if he could smell every secret I'd buried. I took a step back, pretending to check my instruments. The air felt heavier, saturated with static and something I couldn't name. My data tablet flashed an alert. Scent null effectiveness reduced. 12%. Impossible. I'd dosed at maximum. It had never failed. Lucien Vale's mouth curved slightly, a phantom of a smile. "You smell like a lie, doctor." Those words carved through me like a blade dipped in silk. Because in that instant, I knew he was right. I had built my life on deception, and the scent of it had finally reached him. He left the lab with his guards, promising to return for further evaluation. The door sealed behind him, but his scent lingered, curling through the sterile air, tainting every breath I took. That night, I scrubbed the lab floors until my hands bled. I ran diagnostics, blood work, chemical analyses. Every result said the same thing. There was nothing wrong with the formula. Which meant the flaw was me. Maybe biology isn't something you erase. Maybe it just waits, patient, silent, until someone strong enough walks in to wake it. And that's when I realized, for all my science, all my suppression, all my control, I had finally met the one alpha my body refused to forget, the one man who could ruin everything. Chapter 1. When the alpha entered the lab. The next morning, I arrive before the lights do. Motion sensors click awake, washing the lab in cold white. Benches gleam. Steel sings under my palms. Everything is as it should be, controlled, labeled, obedient. I breathe in ethanol and glass and pretend that's all there is. I dose at my station, the ritual precise, thumb to vial, one measured drop beneath the tongue, swallow, wait. The metallic tang blooms, then fades. Sentinel 9 should be threading through my blood like a lullaby by now, instructing glands to fall quiet, quelling that low hum in my bones. "Good morning, Dr. Vance." His voice rolls in before he does. I don't jump. I don't, but my fingers tense around the pipette, and that's a tell. He steps through the double doors like he owns the angle of the light. Charcoal suit today. Open collar. No tie. Alpha at ease. An intimidation tactic dressed as nonchalance. 2 guards linger by the corridor, the kind who could pull a trigger between heartbeats and then discuss coffee. "Alpha Vale," I say, turning with professional calm. "You're early." "Punctuality is the first kindness in war," he says, eyes skimming the room, then coming back to me. "And you smell like citrus disinfectant and lies." Again, my jaw sets. "You'll find the documentation on the far bench. Pharmacokinetics, in vitro assays. Null 9 maintains stability at a range of..." He lifts a palm. "I don't need your lecture, doctor." His gaze catches on the fridge unit. "I need proof." Proof. The word grates. I gesture to the biometric reader. Please place your hand here. The lab logs all access. He indulges me. The screen flares green. Registering his heat signature, I step past him, too close, and open the unit. The cool breath of cold storage sighs over us, smelling faintly of antiseptic and frost. Rows of vials stare back. Crystal glass, clear liquid, 1,000 quiet soldiers awaiting orders. Behind them, sealed cryopacks. I reach for a vial, but Lucien's fingers brush the back of my hand. Just a graze and lightning skitters under my skin. I ignore it. Lot 27C, concentration triple verified. You'll observe immediate dampening of scent dispersal at the dermal patch site. His eyes flick to the inside of my wrist. On you. On you, I counter and watch his mouth change shape. Surprise, then the kind of interest that's dangerous. Brave, he murmurs. Controlled, I correct. I snap on gloves, pierce the vial, and draw out a measured dose. The drop glistens in the air before landing on a sterile patch that I press to the crook of his elbow. His skin is warmer than it should be, like the sun after rain. He doesn't flinch. Of course he doesn't. We stand there in the hum of machines and the tick of a wall clock that's 2 seconds fast. I log the time. He watches me, not the entry screen, not the patch, me, as if I'm the experiment. At the 1-minute mark, I step in, professional, clinical. May I? My fingers hover just beneath his jaw where the scent glands are strongest in alphas. His pulse kicks against my glove. I inhale close to his skin in a quick, efficient test. Science. Just science. Except the air tilts and the scent I registered yesterday. Smoke after lightning, cedar, storm, edits itself, tightens, dims, but does not go away. The suppression curve is wrong. Less a cliff, more a slope. Diminished, not erased. Output reduced, I say evenly, pulling back 80%. That's within acceptable. He leans in, close enough that his breath ghosts my cheek. And you? My throat goes dry. My scent profile is neutral. Is it? He steps past me in a slow circle, his presence a gravitational field. Then explain why your hands shake whenever you're within arm's reach. I look down. The tiniest tremor skitters through the pipette tip and betrays me. I set it down with exaggerated care. Adrenaline, I say. I do not appreciate being watched like livestock. His chuckle is low and humorless. He moves, sudden as a storm, and stops with his palm braced on the bench beside my hip, boxing me in without touching me. Livestock obey, he says. You disobey. The room narrows to the radius of his breath. I hate that my body records him. Temperature, pressure, chemical gradients. My inhibitor is at full strength. My data says I'm safe. My blood says liar. Step back, I tell him, and I put steel in it. A beat. Then he does. Not far. Just enough to prove he can. He nods at the far table. What's in the sealed case? I follow his line of sight to a matte black attaché, council seal embossed in silver. I'd planned to open it after he left. Now I lift it onto the bench. The lock scans my iris, clicks. Inside, legal venom, a contract. Thick, cream paper. Clauses like barbed wire. Memorandum of Understanding. Applied Genetics Initiative, Eastern Pac and Interpac Council. Subparagraphs guaranteeing access to my formula under emergency stabilization. Language that translates to, we own you when it's convenient. Lucien glances over it, lips flattening. They move quickly. Like infection, I say. He looks at me for a long time, something unreadable flickering across his face. Do you know why the council wants this? Truly. Control, I answer. Always. Not only control, he taps a clause with one blunt fingertip. Leverage. They fear omegas who can move unseen. Markets crash when power loses a sense. Then maybe power should learn to see with its eyes, I snap. His attention flicks up. There it is again. The quick flash like I've surprised him. I came because I was told your research would save lives, he says quietly. Field medics. Civilians caught between packs. I won't sign a leash disguised as a treaty. I don't expect that. For a moment, the room changes temperature. Of course, he adds, almost gently. That doesn't mean I'll leave empty-handed. There we are. The trap is always in the second breath. I peel off my gloves. And what do you want, Alpha Vale? His gaze goes to my throat. It's not sexual. No, it's worse. Ancestral. A check of where scent lives. I want what works, he says. A version of your null that cannot be replicated without you. You mean one you can control? That someone we trust can control, he amends. Someone, I repeat. Interesting pronoun. He allows himself the smallest smile. Work with me, Dr. Vance, not the council. With me, he slides a thin folder across the bench. No seal, no pretense. A single page inside, handwritten, a location, a list of materials, a schedule that respects something resembling sanity. And if I refuse? I ask because I have to. Because the part of me that survived a locked cellar needs to hear it said. He leans his hip against the bench, casual poetry of strength. Then the council will eat you alive, and my enemies will pick their teeth with your bones. That's not an answer. It's the only one that keeps you breathing. The anger that rises in me is clean, bright, almost welcome. You don't keep me breathing, I say. I do. He studies me as if cataloging the shape of my defiance. Then he nods once, a soldier acknowledging another soldier's refusal to flinch. Prove it, he says. Open your vault. My spine tightens. Excuse me? You've shown me vials. He nods to the fridge. Pretty glass. Lab tricks. But the compound that matters isn't in a refrigerator. It's in the vault the council made you install. The one only you can open. A muscle jumps in my cheek. He shouldn't know about that. He shouldn't know the vault exists. The guards at the corridor shift their weight. The room's air thickens with the scent of decision. I can refuse, and this becomes a standoff. Or I can open the vault, and this becomes something else, a test of how far I can walk along a cliff's edge without falling. I walk to the back wall. The vault is architected into the lab like a shrug, pretending to be just another cabinet. It's not. Behind the false panel, steel, keypad, genetic sampler. I press my thumb, then bite the inside of my cheek. Let one bright bead of blood fall into the sampler bay. My DNA unlocks what the council thinks it owns. The door acknowledges me with a heavy sigh. Inside, there's not gold, not a treasure. There are notebooks, the kind you keep when you don't want a network to know your thoughts. Spines hand-labeled, formulas the council never saw. Failures, and the one success I don't speak aloud. An early precursor that neutralized scent so completely the test subject went catatonic for 24 hours. Heartbeat whisper-thin. Body convinced it was prey in a world without pack. I never repeated that variant. Lucian stays where he is, which is its own kind of violence. You have ghosts in there, he says softly. Every scientist does. Show me the one that scares you. My hand hovers over the notebook with the red thread around it, the one with a coffee ring on the cover from a night I promised myself I'd never work tired again. I pull it free. He doesn't move closer, I bring it to him. The page opens to a grid of numbers and a neat line of script. Variant 3F, total olfactory dissociation. Effective. Unethical. Destroy. He reads. He does not look triumphant. And you didn't destroy it, he says after a moment. I kept the failure, I answer, not the formula. So I would remember the difference between a solution and a sin. Silver flickers through his eyes again, something like respect shadowed by something else. Good, He closes the notebook and hands it back to me, careful not to touch my skin. The council will demand exactly that sin wrapped in a ribbon, he says. They will call it policy. I won't give it to them. He nods once. Then we are aligned. The word slides under my ribs, fitting where it shouldn't. Aligned, as if we are two teeth in the same gear. I hate that the imagery fits. The far door hisses. A new scent darts in, sharp, cold beta. A man in tactical black strides in without waiting for permission. His beard is steel wire short, his eyes wolf amber and ugly. Alpha, he says, barely dipping his chin. His gaze rakes me, dismisses me, returns with hungry curiosity. Perimeter secure. Western scouts sighted on the ridge, 20 minutes out. My skin prickles. 20 minutes is not enough time to secure my work, to draft the protections, to... Lucian's hand goes to his inner jacket, quick as a strike. He drops a mat device on my bench, square, unmarked. A portable drive. No, its weight is wrong. He presses his thumb to it. Mirror your vault to this, he orders. Your notes. Your samples list. Not the catatonia variant. Never that. The rest. If we have to move, we move fast. I don't... The protest stumbles, not because I can't do it, but because he assumes I will. He meets my gaze, and the room quiets around us. Lyra, he says, using my name for the first time, and everything in me stutters. I will not let them take you. It's too much, too soon. And yet there's a clarity to it. A choice that was theoretical an hour ago tightens into an artery. I grab a cable, connect the device, authenticate the handshake, and the vault begins to bleed its memory into the small, heavy square. Data runs like water. I key in a command that spawns decoys across the network. If anyone breaks in after, they'll chase ghosts through a maze I designed on a night I couldn't stop shaking. 15 minutes, the beta reports, eyes still on me like I'm a puzzle he can take apart. Garrick wants to know if we're retrieving the asset. Asset? I bite out. Lucien doesn't look away from me when he answers his man. Call me Alpha again in that tone and I'll remind you what rank is, he says, voice like the bottom of the sea. And she is not an asset. She is our leverage against extinction. The word lands like a claim. My pulse roars in my ear so loud it almost drowns the beep that signals transfer complete. I snap the device free. The lab lights flicker once. Storm over the ridge, or something worse. I slide the drive into the inner pocket of my lab coat and button the flap shut. An old human gesture that feels like a vow. Sirens trip beyond the corridor, security protocols I didn't trigger. And a single primal fact rises through the clean, clinical chaos of my life. The war is not at the borders, it is standing inside my lab, wearing a suit and saying my name like a promise. Time to choose, Doctor, Lucien says, quiet and absolute. Stay in their cage. Or run with me, I look at my work. Years in glass and ink. I look at the vault, the contract, the beta with amber eyes who thinks I'm a thing. I look at Lucian Vale, whose scent is still too bright, even under my science, whose presence bends the room, whose offer is a knife and a key. The lab lights go out. Emergency red floods the room, painting everything the color of blood. Somewhere down the hall, something breaks. The guards raise their weapons. The beta bares his teeth. I reach under the bench and pull the lever only I know exists. A panel slides, revealing a narrow service corridor no one but the architect and the obsessional scientist insisted on. I meet Lucien's eyes and say the first honest thing I've said to him. Run. Chapter 2. Cracks in the formula. The corridor smelled like metal and fear. The alarm was a low-frequency hum reverberating through my bones, steady as a heartbeat I couldn't control. Lucien moved ahead of me, a blur of sharp suit and instinct, his men flanking behind. My own breath echoed in the narrow passage. Cold air whipped through vents that hadn't seen light in years. We burst through an unmarked door into the sub-basement loading dock. The emergency lights glowed crimson, painting him in shades of war. He didn't even look winded. How far to the exterior? 2 security checkpoints, I answered, fumbling for the override keycard on my belt. And 1 biometric gate that only responds to my DNA. His mouth curved. Convenient. For me, maybe, I snapped. For you, depends on whether you plan to keep me alive. His eyes cut to me then, fierce and unreadable. I protect what's mine. The word mine made something in me coil and snap. I hated that my pulse stuttered. I hated even more that he could hear it. The gate recognized my print on the first try, small mercy. We emerged into the snow-thick dawn, breath curling in silver plumes. The war hadn't reached this sector yet, but smoke already stained the horizon. Lucian's convoy waited, a black armored truck and 2 bikes idling. Garrick, his beta, stood by the truck, checking a pulse rifle. When he saw me, his jaw clenched like he'd bitten into something rotten. Alpha, she's council property, he warned. Bringing her out is treason. Lucien didn't slow. Then consider me a traitor. He opened the truck door and jerked his head toward the interior. Inside, Doctor. I hesitated. Where are you taking me? Somewhere the council can't find you, he said. Somewhere you can keep working. On what? I asked, suspicion spiking. Your weapon? My survival, he corrected quietly, and maybe yours. Inside, the truck smelled of leather, cold steel, and him. I pressed myself into the farthest corner as we rumbled through the frozen roads. Silence stretched like tension wire. The beta sat opposite me, arms folded, gaze like a knife. Lucian typed something on a hollow screen, unbothered. I finally spoke. You can't protect me. The council controls the satellites. They'll track us. Lucian's eyes flicked up. I jammed their signal 15 minutes ago. You can't jam council tech. He smiled faintly. You can't. I can. The arrogance burned me. Do all alphas think they're gods? He tilted his head. Only the ones who have to play against them. Half an hour later, we reached the ridgeline. Snow fell thicker now, muting the world in white silence. The truck halted by a cliffside bunker camouflaged with ice. When the door opened, heat washed over me, rich with cedar smoke and ozone. The scent was wrong here, too familiar. It was him. I swallowed hard. You're masking your compound with your scent. Lucien didn't deny it. It keeps intruders away. It's intoxicating, I muttered before I could stop myself. His gaze snapped to me, sharp as a blade. Is that a complaint? An observation, I said quickly. Don't flatter yourself. But my voice trembled, and we both heard it. The bunker's main chamber looked like an improvised command base. Holographic maps projected shifting front lines across the room. The war between packs had escalated far faster than I'd realized, territories bleeding into one another like infected wounds. Your formula accelerated it, Lucien said, catching my stare. Everyone wants it. Whoever controls scent controls strategy. I sank onto a crate, head in my hands. I made it to protect Omegas. To let us live normal lives, he knelt before me, forcing my gaze up. And now you have a choice. Let them weaponize it or help me end their control. His nearness burned through me. You're asking me to betray everything I built. I'm asking you to decide who you built it for. Hours blurred. I worked beside him, running tests to assess the integrity of the suppressant. But something was wrong. My readings fluctuated, levels I'd never seen before. I ran blood work on myself. The results froze me. Adrenaline spiking, cortisol flooding, inhibitor degradation at 70%. No, I whispered. This isn't possible. Lucien looked up from his console. What happened? The suppressant, I said, throat tight. It's breaking down. The chemical bonds are destabilizing. My scent is. He was already moving before I could finish. In one motion, he swept the equipment aside, closing the distance between us. Breathe, he ordered, slowly. I obeyed without thinking. The air tasted like him, storm and smoke and danger. He inhaled once, then froze. Your formula's collapsing faster around me than anyone else. I stepped back, panic flickering through my chest. That's not possible. Everything about this is possible, he said. You designed suppression for the average alpha, not for your mate. The word hit like a slap. My what? Lucien's eyes glowed faint silver under the bunker light. You felt it too, didn't you? That pull, that surge when you're near me. No, I said too fast. It's chemical, an allergic reaction. Your heart doesn't beat like that for chemistry. I wanted to argue, but the truth clawed up my throat. My inhibitor was failing, cells adapting faster than I could modify them. My scent bloomed like a secret finally freed. The beta, Garrick, snarled low. Alpha, control yourself. She's manipulating you. Lucien didn't even turn. Leave. She's dangerous. Leave. Garrick's footsteps retreated, slamming the steel door behind him. Lucien stepped closer again, slower this time. Your body knows me, he said quietly, even if your mind doesn't want to. I backed up until I hit the workbench. Stop it. Whatever this is, it's wrong, it's nature. I rewrote nature. He smiled, small and tragic, and nature rewrote you back. The bond hit then, like static in my bloodstream, like gravity realigning. My wolf, the one I'd drugged and caged for years, stirred deep within. I could feel his scent wrapping around me, echoing inside the hollow places I'd built from logic and fear. Every instinct screamed to yield. Every scar screamed not to. He reached for me, not with dominance, but with the kind of restraint that made it worse. Lyra, he said, my name rough in his throat. You're fighting a war you already lost. I shoved past him, grabbing a vial from the table. Not yet. The glass cracked in my grip as I injected myself with an emergency dose. My body convulsed, the suppressant seared like acid under my skin, suppressing everything, scent, heat, instinct. Lucien caught me as my knees gave way. His arms were iron and warmth. Damn it, he growled, you'll kill yourself. Better me than your claim, I gasped. He tightened his grip, voice low, shaking with fury and something that sounded too much like grief. I don't want to claim. I want you alive. My vision blurred. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was his face, torn between fury and fear, and the last thing I heard was him whispering against my temple. Then I'll fight nature itself to keep you breathing, Lyra. Chapter 3. The Offer. When I wake, the world smells like smoke and silver. The ceiling above me isn't the sterile white of my lab, it's rough stone, shadowed by flickering firelight. My wrist aches where the IV line feeds into my vein. Clear fluid, not suppressant, thank the goddess. My body hums with fatigue and something sharper, heavier. Lucien sits by the fire, back to me. The flames cut through his silhouette, throwing a molten edge along his shoulders. He's not wearing his jacket anymore, just a dark shirt rolled up to the elbows, hands clasped loosely, predator at rest. The alpha of the Eastern Pack, sitting like he's guarding me. I hate the shiver that runs down my spine. You should have let me die, I rasp. He doesn't turn right away. That's not something I'm good at. My throat burns. What happened? The suppressant you injected overloaded your system. You went into shock. He finally looks over his shoulder. His eyes catch the firelight, pale, stormlit gray. I had to flush it out. I touch the bandage at my neck. He answers before I can finish. Bit you. The word hangs in the air, thick as the smoke between us. It wasn't a mark, he adds quickly, just enough to purge the compound. It's biology, I swallow. You detoxed me like an omega in crisis, he nods, because that's exactly what you were. My pulse spikes. You had no right. Lucien stands, moving closer until the firelight dances across his face. You were dying. I took a choice you'd already lost. Don't you dare make that sound noble. He exhales slowly, controlled. You can hate me later. Right now, we need to talk about what happens next. He gestures toward the table near the fire, spread with maps, holographic projections, and vials that gleam faintly blue under the light. The council's moving north, he says. They have your formula. Or at least a corrupted version of it. They're distributing it to packs that agree to submit. My chest tightens. They're turning scent suppression into political leverage. He nods. And you're the only one who can fix it. I won't help them. I didn't ask you to. He picks up a data chip from the table, rolling it between his fingers. I want you to help me build something stronger. I narrow my eyes. Stronger. An antidote, a countermeasure to nullify the suppressant once it's deployed. Something that restores scent, restores instinct. That's not how chemistry works, I mutter. It's how survival works. He steps closer. You built a way to silence what we are. Build a way to bring it back. I push myself upright, muscles protesting. Why? You'd lose control of your armies. Of the packs, he gives a short, dark laugh. Control is an illusion, Doctor. My soldiers obey because they believe I can keep them alive. When they stop believing, control dies anyway. He stops at the edge of my cot. You think I want a world of puppets? No, I want balance. I want a world where the council stops deciding who gets to breathe. I meet his gaze. And in your version of the balance, I'm what? Your personal scientist? Your pet? Something flickers across his expression. Offense, maybe, or regret. You're the one person who can end this war without more blood. You don't need me, I whisper. You need my mind. His jaw tightens. You think I don't see the difference? Do you? I challenge. Because you keep saying my scent, my formula, my power. Not once have you said my name. His voice drops, quiet but cutting. Lyra. It hits harder than I expect. My name sounds strange in his mouth, too human, too intimate. He steps back like he's giving me room to breathe. You don't have to trust me. Just understand this. The council will weaponize your work within weeks, and they'll start with omegas like you. They'll hunt them, breed them, turn them into factories for control. My stomach twists. You're exaggerating. Am I? He says softly. I've seen what they do to alphas who refuse their rule. Omegas will fare worse. He sets a small vial on the table between us. It's filled with a faintly glowing liquid, the suppressant. My suppressant. I salvaged what was left from your lab, he says. You can study it. You'll find tampering, different hands in your formula. I stare at it, bile rising in my throat. Someone stole my research. They didn't just steal it, Lucien says. They replicated it. The Western Pack is already testing it on their omegas. The results are lethal. I close my eyes. The image forms too easily. Young omegas convulsing, scent fading, bodies breaking under the chemical weight. My nightmare realized. You're lying, I whisper. He doesn't flinch. I wish I were. The silence that follows feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. The air between us hums, charged with something deeper than fear. Lucien kneels in front of me again, not dominating, just steady, present. Work with me, he says. We can fix this before it spreads. Before they enslave every omega on the continent. I search his face for deceit, for politics. for the kind of manipulation that alphas are bred to wield. But all I see is exhaustion, determination, a strange kind of desperation that mirrors my own. If I agree, I ask, what do you want in return? He hesitates, then answers honestly, your word, that you'll stay here until the antidote is complete. I almost laugh. You're asking me to cage myself voluntarily. I'm asking you to survive long enough to change the world. He holds out his hand, a pact, silent but clear. I look at it, strong, scarred, dangerous. Everything I've avoided my entire life. When I don't take it, he lowers it slowly. You don't have to decide tonight, he says. But when the council finds us, and they will, you'll wish you had an army at your back. He leaves then, the door sliding shut behind him, the echo of his scent lingering in the room long after. Alone again, I stare at the vial. The faint glow pulses like a heartbeat, my creation, my curse. I reach for my tablet and pull up the molecular breakdown. He was right. The formula's been altered, more aggressive, more volatile, designed to silence scent permanently by destroying the pheromone receptors. That's not suppression. That's annihilation. My hands shake. I could walk away. Let the packs tear each other apart. Let the world burn and call it balance. But then I remember my mother whispering through the cellar door. They can smell fear, Lyra. She wanted me to hide to survive. I think I'm finally done hiding. I open a new file on the tablet. The screen lights up with 2 words, Project Rebirth. And somewhere beyond the door, I swear I can still feel Lucien's pulse in the air, steady and relentless, like fate waiting for me to choose. Hey, if you're still here with me, thank you. You've listened through every heartbeat, every breath I tried to hide. It means more than you know. Stories like this are made for souls who believe that love, even when broken, can still change everything. So if you're still here, you're one of mine. Don't forget to tap that subscribe button, leave a comment to tell me where you're listening from, and share this with someone who still believes in fate's cruel beauty. Now, breathe with me. Let's go back, because the scent of truth is about to burn through every lie I ever told. Chapter 4, The Theft. The storm arrived before dawn. Wind howled against the mountain bunker, flinging snow like shrapnel against steel. Inside, the air was tight with caffeine and exhaustion. The lab glowed an eerie blue beneath the screens. Data streamed across the monitors. My new formula coming alive, molecule by molecule. It wasn't a suppressant this time. It was the antidote, a counteragent that would wake what the council had tried to silence. I called it Rebirth. For 72 hours, I hadn't left the lab. Lucien barely slept either. Every time I looked up from my console, he was there, at the perimeter, studying tactical maps, murmuring orders to Garrick. I'd stopped asking if I was prisoner or partner. Maybe I was both. But that morning, something was wrong. The bunker was too quiet, too still. I saved my progress and reached for the mug on my desk. Cold. I hadn't realized the heater had shut down. Static prickled up my arms, an instinct older than science. The air didn't smell right. Lucien? I called softly. No answer, only the soft hum of the generators below. Then, movement, a shadow crossing the far end of the lab. I froze, heart hammering. The figure stepped into view, Garrick. Where's Lucien? I demanded. He didn't answer right away. His gaze swept the room, lingering on the central console, my console. He's securing the perimeter, he said at last. Scouts on the ridge. Something about his tone made my skin crawl. He should have radioed. He trusts me to handle things inside. I forced a thin smile. That's your first mistake. His lips curved, humorless. You think because the alpha keeps you close, you're safe. I think you should back away from my research. He ignored that, stepping closer. You're playing with power you don't understand. Omegas shouldn't wield it. You should be grateful the council wants your formula. It means you're useful. I laughed once, sharp. Useful? That's what they called my mother before they used her blood to test scent stabilizers. He stopped short. They said those trials were voluntary. I met his eyes. They lied. Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe, but it vanished as fast as it came. None of this matters, he said. The council's paying for the data. I deliver it. We all live through the winter. My stomach dropped. You're selling my work. Correction, he said, pulling a drive from his belt. I'm saving us from extinction. You're saving your own hide, I hissed. The council will burn this bunker to ash once they get what they want. He didn't answer. He crossed the room, heading straight for my workstation. I grabbed the syringe from the tray, empty, but it made a point, and blocked his path. Don't, he sneered. Move, Omega. I didn't. Garrick's eyes flared amber. You think the Alpha's protection makes you untouchable? He's not here now. He lunged. Reflex. My wolf rose, half awake. I ducked under his arm and slammed the emergency panel. Sirens blared. Red lights flashed. The security shutters began to close. Idiot, he roared, grabbing my wrist. You'll trap us both. That's the idea. The struggle sent us crashing into the table. Vials shattered, chemical scents filling the air. Ozone, bitter synthetic musk, the faint iron tang of my blood. His grip tightened. You can't stop this. Watch me. I kneed him hard enough to stagger him back and sprinted for the data console. My code keys flickered alive. I started the encryption sequence, the one that would lock Rebirth behind a firewall even Lucian couldn't break. But Garrick was fast. Too fast. His arm slammed into mine and the drive flew from my hand. He caught it midair, breath ragged. Game over, he snarled. A gunshot cracked through the air. Garrick froze. A neat hole bloomed in his shoulder. He turned, disbelief written across his face. Lucien stood in the doorway, smoke curling from his pistol, expression carved in stone. Drop it, the Alpha said. Garrick hesitated. Alpha, listen, I said drop it. Garrick dropped the drive. It clattered to the floor, still glowing faintly blue. Lucien crossed the distance in 2 strides, kicking it toward me. I snatched it, heart racing. Then Lucien grabbed Garrick by the collar and slammed him against the steel wall hard enough to dent it. You tried to sell my scientist to the council? Lucien's voice was low, deadly calm. You broke oath. You broke pack. She's not pack. Garrick spat. She's poison. Lucien's eyes flashed pure silver. Then you're already dead. Lucien, I started, but it was too late. The sound was wet and final. Garrick crumpled. For a moment, only the hum of the failing alarms filled the air. Lucien wiped his hand across his mouth, then looked at me. You okay? I couldn't speak. I nodded, shaking. He took the drive from my trembling hand, set it carefully on the table, and then said quietly, This is why I needed you. The council would have gutted the world for what's in that device. My voice came out small. You killed him. He made his choice. He was your beta. Lucien's eyes softened. He was. But loyalty doesn't erase betrayal. Something inside me cracked. Fear, anger, maybe both. And what about mine? How long before you decide I'm a threat? He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, until the scent of storm and cedar swallowed the air between us. Then I'll fight that choice too, he said softly, because the only thing more dangerous than your mind is what it does to me. The tension was unbearable, raw, magnetic. I wanted to push him away. I wanted to lean closer. The monitors flickered, breaking the moment. Unauthorized signal detected. Tracking coordinates locked. Lucien's head snapped toward the screen. They found us. The council? I breathed. He nodded once. Get your things, Lyra. We run now. But the formula, he grabbed the drive, sliding it into his pocket. I've got it. The rest burns. Burns! He didn't answer, just drew a small detonator from his belt, armed it, and tossed it toward the main console. The soft hum of the timer began counting down. My throat went dry. You're insane. Maybe, he said, grabbing my hand. But I'm not letting them cage you again. The explosion ripped through the lab as we sprinted through the secondary exit. Heat seared my back, alarms screamed, and somewhere deep below, the bunker began to collapse. We didn't stop until the mountains swallowed the dawn. Snow fell again, silent, relentless. The world smelled like smoke and ending. Lucien turned to me, hair dusted white, face drawn but alive. No more hiding, Doctor. They'll come for both of us now. I looked at him, chest heaving, and for the first time since the day he'd walked into my lab, I believed him. Because somewhere in the ashes behind us, the truth was burning too. And the war had just begun. Chapter 5. Bonded by Betrayal. We didn't stop running until the mountain disappeared behind us. The air bit sharp and clean at dawn, carrying the scent of burnt metal and pine. The forest below was endless shadow and frost, each breath frosting the air between us. Every step I took felt like a heartbeat I hadn't earned. Lucien didn't speak. His hand stayed on his weapon, eyes scanning the tree line. Every few minutes, his nose lifted to the wind. Alpha instinct, feral, calculating, relentless. Finally, when we reached the ravine, he slowed. We rest here. I sank to the ground, the adrenaline fading, exhaustion crashing in like a wave. You burned my life's work. He glanced back. I saved it. By destroying it? He didn't answer, just threw me a canteen. Drink. You're dehydrated. I ignored it. You killed your beta, Lucien. You detonated my lab. Tell me, who exactly do you think you're saving? He crouched in front of me. You, he said quietly. Even if you hate me for it. I wanted to laugh, or scream, or both. You can't save someone by burning everything they built. He studied me for a long moment. You built a cage and called it safety. I just tore it down. I turned away, staring into the forest. The silence between us wasn't peace. It was pressure. Every breath felt like borrowed time. Hours later, when the wind shifted, he went still. His ears tilted toward the north, nostrils flaring. They're tracking us. The council? He nodded. They'll use scent hounds. Then we need to mask ours. Your suppressant won't hold, he said. Not after the dose you burned through. Then I'll make something new. I started unpacking what little we'd salvaged. 2 vials, a portable scanner, 1 injector. My hands moved automatically, scientist instinct overriding fear. Lucien watched in silence. The forest around us pulsed with distant howls. I glanced up. You're not helping. His lips twitched. You don't need help. You need time. And if I don't have it? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then we use instinct. Before I could ask, he grabbed a knife from his belt and dragged the blade lightly across his palm. Blood welled, dark and bright. I flinched. What are you doing? He reached for me, masking us. When his blood smeared across my neck, my skin burned, sharp, electric, primal. The scent of him was overwhelming, tangling with my own. This'll confuse their trackers, he murmured. My scent will overwrite yours. It's barbaric. It's effective. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. You could have just asked. I did, he said softly. You didn't listen. By nightfall, we found a small cabin buried beneath fir trees, half collapsed, long abandoned. Lucien kicked the door in and checked the corners before letting me inside. The place smelled like dust and memories. He cleared the hearth, coaxed a fire to life, And for a moment, we weren't fugitives or enemies, just two people trying to stay warm. I sat near the flames, rubbing warmth into my hands. How far do we run before it ends? Lucien's voice came from the shadows. Until they stop hunting. They'll never stop. He crouched beside me, gaze steady. Then we make them. The firelight painted his scars gold, tracing the hard planes of his face. I tried not to stare. I failed. You ever wonder, I whispered, if we're both the villain in someone else's story? He smiled faintly. Every day. When the wind died, the silence was total. Too total. My skin prickled. Lucien felt it too. He rose, sniffing the air. They're close. How close? Close enough. I scrambled to grab the vials, shoving them into my bag. The floorboards creaked. My heartbeat thundered. Then, voices. Outside, male. Council soldiers. Lucien cursed under his breath. There's a back door. We slipped through it, crouching low, moving fast across the frostbitten ground. The moon hung full above us, silver and heavy. I could feel its pull deep in my bones. My wolf stirred, hungry, awake. We made it to the tree line before the first gunshot split the air. Lucien shoved me down behind a fallen log. Stay low! Bullets tore through the bark. I could smell the chemical tang of silver rounds, meant to kill shifters instantly. I pressed my hands over my ears, heart hammering. They found us! Not for long. He shifted. 1 second, man. The next. Wolf. His body exploded into motion, black fur rippling, eyes burning silver. He leapt from the shadows with a snarl that shook the ground. The soldiers screamed. I should have been afraid, but I wasn't. I was mesmerized. The way he moved, feral grace and violence wrapped in one body, felt like watching a storm made flesh. But there were too many of them. One raised a rifle. I didn't think. I moved. I grabbed the nearest shard of silvered glass from the ground and slammed it into the soldier's arm. He howled, gun firing into the snow. Lucien turned, saw me, and something in his eyes changed. Pride, fear, bond. The battle ended as quickly as it began, blood on snow. Silence heavy. Lucien shifted back, breath steaming, body slick with sweat and frost. You shouldn't have done that, he said, voice rough. I wasn't going to let you die. He stepped closer, eyes wild. You don't understand, Lyra. Every time you fight beside me, the bond strengthens. It's already pulling at me. What bond? I demanded. He took my wrist and pressed my hand flat against his chest. His heartbeat slammed against my palm, wild, syncopated with mine. This one, he said hoarsely. I felt it then, electric, alive, undeniable, a magnetic tether between us, raw and terrifying. No, I whispered, I didn't choose this. Neither did I, he said, but the moon goddess did. And she doesn't take no for an answer. I yanked my hand away, stumbling back. I'm not your mate. His expression cracked, half anger, half agony. Tell that to your pulse. I hated that he was right. I hated that my body betrayed me. He turned away, raking a hand through his hair. The council knows now. They can sense bonded energy. They'll use it to track us. So what do we do? Lucien looked back, and for once he didn't sound like an alpha giving orders. He sounded like a man caught in a trap he couldn't break. We stop running, he said quietly. We fight. I stared at him, heart split between fury and something far more dangerous. Together? His voice was a whisper of smoke and promise. Always. The wind carried our mingled scent into the night. Somewhere beyond the ridge, I could hear the hounds howl. Maybe they'd come for us tomorrow, but tonight, under the silver weight of the moon, I realized something terrifying. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running from my nature. I was running with it. Chapter 6. The Scent of War. The war found us at dawn. The forest that had sheltered us for days now trembled with the sound of engines, the thrum of hovercrafts slicing through the cold air. The council's hunters had arrived, silver banners against a bleeding sky. Lucien stood on the ridge, rifle in hand, eyes narrowed against the wind. His coat whipped around him like a dark flag. "They've brought an army." I crouched beside the fire pit, shaking hands hovering over the vials in my kit. "Then we bring a cure." He turned, jaw tight. "There's no time for experiments, Lyra." "Then make time," I snapped, because I just finished what I started. I held up a vial of pale gold liquid. Unlike the cold blue of my suppressant, this one shimmered like sunlight trapped in glass. Lucien stared. "That's the antidote," I said. "Rebirth. It reawakens scent receptors suppressed by Null 9. If I can aerosolize it, it'll spread across the battlefield and end the Council's control." He exhaled, a sound halfway between awe and disbelief. "You did it." "I had help," I admitted. "Yours." Something softened in his expression. "Then let's make sure it's not for nothing." We packed what little we had and moved toward the ridge. Snow crunched beneath our boots, blood still staining the earth from the night before. The air was sharp with the metallic tang of silver weapons. Lucian's soldiers waited in formation, wolves and humans both, loyal to him even now. Some bowed when they saw me, others whispered, wary. "The council calls her a weapon," one murmured. Lucian's voice carried through the cold. "She's the cure." Remember that his pack fell silent. I wanted to argue, to tell him I wasn't anyone's cure, but the truth was, he wasn't wrong. For years, I'd hidden behind logic, behind science, but somewhere between betrayal and fire, I'd stopped fearing what I was. I wasn't just a scientist. I was an Omega, and for the first time in my life, that meant power. We reached the ridge's edge. The enemy lines stretched across the valley below. Black uniforms, silver insignias, hundreds of soldiers moving like a single organism. At the center of it all, a sleek command vehicle pulsed with red lights. I recognized the insignia immediately. The Council's Omega Division. Lucien cursed under his breath. They brought their new pets. The air carried a faint chemical tang, familiar and horrifying. I didn't need instruments to know what it was. "They're dosing Omegas with my corrupted formula," I whispered, forcing them to nullify scent on both sides. Lucien's eyes went cold. "Weapons in human skin." I nodded grimly. "Then we free them." He placed his hand on my shoulder. "Once you release your antidote, you'll be exposed. Every scent in your blood will call to them." "I know." "They'll come for you first." "I know that too." "Then let me mark you." My head snapped up. "No. It's the only way to shield your scent from being isolated," he said, voice steady. "A temporary mark will confuse their trackers. They'll smell me instead of you. I don't want a mark." His gaze held mine. "Then you'll die without one." The words cut sharper than any blade. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air pulsed between us, alive and unbearable. "Fine," I whispered. "Do it." Lucien stepped closer, tilting my chin up. His breath was warm against my neck. "Last chance to change your mind. Get it over with." His teeth sank in, sharp, burning, electric. The world exploded into light. My blood sang. Every suppressed instinct screamed awake. When he pulled back, his mouth was stained with gold. "You smell like lightning," he murmured. "You smell like trouble," I breathed. He smiled faintly. "Then we match." The first explosion hit the valley. Lucien barked orders, voice carrying over the chaos. Wolves surged forward, howls splitting the morning. I loaded the antidote vial into the aerosol capsule, clipped it to the dispersal drone, and powered the ignition. The hum was deafening. Once it's airborne, I said, we can't control where it spreads. Lucien's hand closed over mine. Then pray it spreads everywhere. I hit launch. The drone shot into the sky, wings unfolding, light flaring like a newborn sun. The golden mist began to fall over the battlefield, faint but radiant. Below, the soldiers faltered. At first, nothing. Then, screams. Not of pain, but of awakening. Omegas collapsed to their knees, gasping as their suppressed sense returned. The air filled with the symphony of pheromones, floral, metallic, wild. For the first time in years, the world smelled alive. Lucian grinned fiercely. It's working! Then the sniper bullet hit him. He staggered, blood blossoming through his coat. Lucien! I caught him as he fell, dragging him behind the ridge. The wound was deep, silver bullet lodged near his ribs. His breath came ragged. Finish it. You're not dying here. Lyra. His hand found mine, slick with blood. If I don't make it, destroy the council's lab. End this, I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. Don't talk like that. You're the alpha. You survive everything. He smiled faintly. Even you? Especially me. I pressed my palm over the wound, focusing on the field kit beside us. Hold still. Not a chance. I swear, if you die, I'll resurrect you just to kill you again. Noted. Despite the blood, he laughed, low and broken. It was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. By the time I sealed the wound, the battle below had changed. The Council's army was falling apart, commanders screaming as their controlled Omegas turned on them, instincts fully awake. The antidote was spreading faster than we'd predicted. Lucien's soldiers rallied, their howls merging into one. For a moment, it looked like victory. Then the sky turned red. The Council's command ship descended from the clouds, sleek and silent, weapon ports glowing. Lucien's grip tightened around my wrist. That's their failsafe. They'll burn everything. Then we burn brighter. I ran toward the center of the ridge, clutching the detonator he'd used in the lab. The pack's communications still pulsed faintly through my earpiece. Chaos, fear, resolve. Lucian shouted after me, voice rough. Lyra! I didn't stop. I'd spent my life hiding from my nature, suppressing everything that made me me. But now I wanted the world to smell my defiance. I climbed the ridge, snow stinging my face, and aimed the detonator at the sky. This is for every Omega they silenced, I whispered, for everyone they called weak. I pressed the trigger. The mountain erupted in light. A chain reaction tore through the Council's ships, each one laced with stolen suppressant gas that now ignited under my antidote's compound. The explosion bloomed golden across the horizon, blinding, brilliant, unstoppable. Lucian's arms caught me before the shockwave hit. We fell together, the world shattering around us. When the dust settled, the sky was a dull gray. Smoke rose from the valley. The Council's fleet was gone. Lucien coughed, wincing. You blew up my war. You're welcome, he laughed weakly. Remind me never to underestimate you again. I smiled through tears. You already did. He reached up, brushing his thumb over my cheek, smearing ash. You saved us. No, I whispered. We saved us. The first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds. The air smelled different now, wild, free, full of life. All around us the world began to breathe again, and as Lucian pulled me close, blood and smoke and all, I realized something simple and terrifying. This wasn't the end of a war. It was the beginning of something new. Epilogue, the scent of freedom. Weeks later, the ruins of the Council's fortress stood quiet. I walked through the rubble alone, the air rich with new scents, earth, ash, rebirth. My research was gone, but my work wasn't. Across the territories, Omegas were awakening, packs rebuilding, freedom rewriting the hierarchy, one heartbeat at a time. Behind me, I heard his footsteps. Lucien's scent reached me first. Stormlight and cedar, unchanged, unforgettable. "You still come here?" he asked. "Sometimes." He stood beside me, brushing his fingers against mine. "You rebuilt the world. You could live anywhere. Yet you come back to the ashes because this is where I stopped running." He smiled softly and started living. I nodded. "And you?" He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "I stopped hunting the scent of lies because I found the truth." His lips brushed mine, gentle, inevitable. The bond flared between us, no longer chains but wings. If you'd fight to free your own nature, even when the world calls it a sin, subscribe now and share this with your pack, because every Omega has a choice to hide or to rise.